Talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before. Sure. So she was, everybody was like, "Oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma." First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no thing as karma, okay? Get over that.
Political debates today are less about open-minded discussions and more like battlegrounds where logic and reason crash headfirst into unwavering ideologies. This time, BillMaher stepped right into the fire, challenging Whoopi Goldberg in a showdown that had everyone talking. But this wasn't just another Hollywood spat or celebrity squabble. No, this was a wake-up call. Maher, known for pulling no punches, has spent years calling out hypocrisy on both sides of the aisle. But his latest exchange with Whoopi went beyond anything we've seen before.
Understand that part of our sorry racial history in this country is that the point of view from a black person is often going to be very different and sometimes shocking.
Very different and sometimes shocking, the conversation wasn't just heated. It exposed the widening gap between elite progressive narratives and the everyday struggles of real Americans. Whoopi, standing firm in her usual stance, leaned on the same talking points that dominate TheView, rhetoric that might sound good in a carefully curated media bubble. But Maher wasn't having it. He fired back with cold, hard facts, dismantling her arguments piece by piece. The contradictions in her reasoning became impossible to ignore, and for once, Whoopi found herself scrambling for a solid comeback.
You know, I watch your show all the time, so I know that you're a comic, but you basically go after Trump and Biden, you know, both of them. And a lot of people are not happy with you about that. I'm
not equally.
Well, not equally, because you know that Trump is more dangerous.
Of course. I mean, I don't think anybody was more out front on that danger than I was.
This wasn't just about two TV personalities sparring. It was a much bigger reflection of the growing disconnect between Hollywood-style progressivism and the reality on the ground. While Whoopi pushed the usual elite narrative, Maher cut straight to the core, asking the questions that mainstream media conveniently sidesteps. The entire exchange left audiences divided, some praising Maher for his unfiltered approach, others rushing to defend Whoopi. But one thing was crystal clear: when ideological talking points get put under real scrutiny, they don't always hold up.
I was talking about how he was never going to give up power long ago when everybody was laughing at me and said, "You smoke too much pot." And I said, "I smoke just the right amount of pot." Because plainly, I was using the term slow-moving coup before he was elected the first time.
That's right.
I said, this guy is never going to concede power. It's impossible to imagine him going, "Oh, I lost."
Before diving into the debate itself, it's crucial to understand the two figures at the center of it all. Whoopi Goldberg, an outspoken advocate for liberal policies, has repeatedly dismissed criticisms of the left, often labeling them as exaggerated right-wing narratives. She's known for doubling down on progressive viewpoints, rarely entertaining opposing perspectives. On the other side, BillMaher doesn't fit neatly into a conservative box. He's a traditional liberal, but one who refuses to follow rigid ideological scripts. His willingness to question both sides makes him a unique voice in political discourse. This contrast alone set the stage for a debate that was anything but ordinary.
About saying anything against Biden, because I feel, not that I have so much power, and you have some more than I do, obviously, but...
Oh, I don't know about that.
Are you afraid that you might, influence people who are on the fence?
I think you lose all credibility.
The exchange escalated when Whoopi downplayed concerns over crime, inflation, and the struggles of working-class Americans. She dismissed these issues as overblown, but Maher immediately pushed back, arguing that these aren't just political talking points, they're everyday realities affecting millions. Rather than directly responding to Maher's criticisms, Whoopi sidestepped, offering vague rebuttals that avoided the core of the discussion. When she did engage, her defense leaned on outdated economic arguments that no longer align with what people are actually experiencing.
I mean, my bond with my audience has always been, I don't pull a punch.
Yeah.
My bond with my audience is, you're not going to like everything I say, but I'm saying what I really think is true.
Right.
That's.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And look, Biden just presents as old. It's not really fair.
No.
Because he's almost the same age. Trump is almost the same age as him.
I know.
despite constantly claiming to stand for marginalized communities, certain political figures often overlook what those communities actually care about. Poll after poll shows that Black and Hispanic voters are far more concerned with economic security and crime than the ideological battles playing out on social media. Yet, Whoopi refused to acknowledge this reality, making her argument even shakier as the discussion unfolded.
Trump doesn't present that way. You know, you look at somebody right away, you can kind of just sum them up. I mean, we are not young, but we don't present as old.
Yeah.
Biden does. I saw him yesterday making that speech.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, he's cadaver-like.
But his brain is good. He's still great.
Well, here's what I said. Like, when I came back after the strike in September, I said, he should get out.
Then came the moment that changed everything. Maher, never one to shy away from calling out hypocrisy, shifted gears and went straight for the Democratic double standard. He brought up the Hunter Biden scandals, exposing how the same Democrats who scream about accountability suddenly lose their voices when one of their own is under fire. Whoopi visibly tensed up. She scrambled to dismiss the controversy, insisting it was being exaggerated by critics. But Maher wasn't about to let her get away with that. He pounced, reminding the audience of President Biden's own words, that no one is above the law.
I mean, a conservative once said to me, what you guys in the liberal side of it don't get about Donald Trump is we don't like him either.
Yeah.
It's just that in this country, it's binary. I mean, gender may not be binary, but politics is. You only get two choices. And the stuff that they are afraid of, they see Donald Trump as a bulwark against.
Yet that statement rang hollow because soon after, Biden was preparing to pardon his own son. The hypocrisy was undeniable. Maher made it crystal clear. If the rules only apply when it's politically convenient, then they aren't rules at all. They're just empty rhetoric. Whoopi's defense crumbled. She faltered, struggling to counter Maher's relentless logic. The energy in the room had shifted, and for once it was Whoopi on the defensive with nowhere left to turn.
He buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
As the conversation reached a boiling point, Maher turned his attention to a critical player in political manipulation, the media. He didn't hold back, calling out mainstream outlets for deliberately suppressing the Hunter Biden scandal ahead of the election. According to Maher, this wasn't just about bias, it was about narrative control over journalistic integrity. Whoopi, clearly rattled, dismissed his argument outright, waving it off as yet another right-wing conspiracy theory. But Maher came armed with receipts.
Obama had her over to the White House, like in 2013, to hint, you know, hey,
Hint.
spend more time with the grandkids. That would not be a good idea, Ruth. And she didn't take the hint, and she was not in good health, and she stayed too long, and she ruined her legacy and got the Supreme Court now to be a pretty right-wing organization. Said Biden shouldn't do that, but you know, ego. He's Dracula. He has crossed oceans of time to be here, and he's not going to give it up now.
He reminded Whoopi and the audience that even left-leaning journalists had admitted the Hunter Biden story was intentionally buried to protect political interests. And that, Maher argued, is the real danger of woke ideology. It's not about truth, justice, or progress. It's about controlling the narrative. If inconvenient facts can be ignored or silenced, then how can anyone trust the system? Once again, Whoopi had no solid rebuttal. Instead of countering with facts, she chose the easy way out, changing the subject.
And that stuff is a lot closer to the home. It's like my kid is coming home from school, and they're not allowed to tell me if they're transitioning. The school is going to take the side of the kid over the parent. Stuff like that. There is a lot of crazy stuff on the left. This book, there's stuff that each side is going to like and probably stuff they're not going to like so much in there.
At this point, Maher broadened the discussion, taking aim at a larger issue, the progressive movement's increasing hostility toward any form of dissent. He pointed out that the very people progressives claim to fight for, working-class Americans, are now rejecting these elitist, media-driven narratives. But instead of recognizing this undeniable shift, Whoopi doubled down. She continued to dismiss these concerns, branding them as nothing more than right-wing rhetoric.
You used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bashed. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustice.
Maher wasn't finished. He shifted focus to the changing political landscape, explaining how the Democratic Party's sharp leftward shift has driven away key voter demographics, including Black and Hispanic Americans, who are increasingly breaking away from the party's grip. Polls consistently reveal that these communities are more patriotic, more supportive of law enforcement, and far less tolerant of unchecked illegal immigration than the white progressive activists who claim to speak for them.
Look, I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
Yet, rather than addressing the real concerns of these communities, Democrats continue to cater to elite ideologues, pushing policies that have little to do with what people actually want. Throughout the debate, Whoopi Goldberg struggled to keep up. Faced with Maher's fact-based arguments, she sidestepped, deflected, and leaned on vague emotional appeals rather than directly engaging with the substance of the discussion.
That's the answer to the Donald Trump situation is, what's going to get him elected is this woke stuff that a lot of people in this country just don't go for.
Well, one thing that I break with is that you can disagree on candidates, but when one talks about literally upending the entire democracy, that's my heart out. Like, there's not an equal comparison here.
This is a pattern we see all too often within woke politics, where ideological purity takes precedence over objective reality. One of the most revealing moments came when Maher challenged Whoopi directly on the priorities of Black and Hispanic Americans. Rather than acknowledging the truth, that these communities care far more about economic stability and public safety than progressive activism, Whoopi dodged the question, steering the conversation in a completely different direction.
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice, who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want, because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left? But don't tell me the left
Or maybe the super far right.
She made a last-ditch effort to flip the script, playing the victim. She accused Maher of misrepresenting her views and trying to make her look bad. But Maher wasn't twisting anything. He was simply holding up a mirror. And the reflection? It wasn't flattering.
I mean, women have no, this is a show watched by a lot of women. Women have no rights in this place.
This debate wasn't just a celebrity spat. It was a symbolic battle over the future of political discourse in America. As mainstream media becomes more ideologically driven, figures like Maher stand out for their refusal to conform to partisan expectations. His ability to critique both sides makes him one of the last truly independent voices in political discussion today.
We talked about that. I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Be a turning point? People continue rejecting performative outrage and prioritizing open dialogue over ideological conformity. The woke establishment may find itself losing ground faster than expected. Cracks in the foundation are already visible, and Maher's verbal takedown of Whoopi Goldberg might just be the beginning of something much bigger.
Okay. That was a joke. But,
Too dark.
Well, maybe it is, but it's true. If I had any doubt that I was right about the change that's happened in the left, watching people protest.
What do you think? Are we witnessing the downfall of scripted media, or is this just another controversy that will fade away? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. There's plenty more to uncover in the next one. See you soon.